President Akufo-Addo has expressed disgust at the state of Ghana's traditional mining towns despite the billions of dollars worth of minerals that have been extracted there. The Wasi mine, owned largely by South Africa-based Anglo Gold, for instance, though regarded as one of the top 9 largest gold mines on earth and where gold has been mined for over 112 years, remains in a distressing state with unemployment and underdevelopment visible on the streets. A Minerals Development Fund approved by Parliament in 2016 to set aside a percentage of mining resources to be channeled into developing mining communities is yet to be implemented. President Akufo-Addo, who opened the West Africa Mining Conference, described the situation as unfortunate.
The truth must be told. It is difficult for the average Ghanaian to appreciate that the country gains substantially from mining. It probably has to do with the fact that the communities in which mining has been done remain largely underdeveloped and do not show signs of being the origins of what brings wealth to so many people and places. For years, we were told the mine in Obuasi was the richest gold mine in the world. The question is justifiably asked, how come Obuasi does not show any sign that it is the home of the richest gold mine in the world? The contrast between Obuasi and Johannesburg, for example, is stark and compelling. The distressed state of mining communities, in which mining companies operate, is nothing short of a disgrace. And we must work to change the situation. Even though mining companies have over the years complemented the work of government in these communities, I'm certain that a lot more can be done to transform the communities if government and the mining companies collaborate in an intelligent and sustainable manner. The Minerals Development Fund Act of 2016, Act 912, was enacted to address some of these problems. And my government is working to ensure that the Act is fully operational to provide financial resources to transform mining communities.
President Akufo-Addo also spoke about tracking volumes of mining exports and plans to constantly review electricity tariffs.
The triple elements of the requirements of an adequate, reliable, and cost-effective power supply are fundamental to success across all sectors of industry. We need reliable and cost-competitive power supply to be able to translate into reality our desire for harnessing linkage opportunities and value addition to our gold, bauxite, iron ore, and other minerals. We must salute the PURC for implementing a 10% reduction in power tariffs a few months ago for the mining companies, as had been requested by government, and urge them to work to find scope for further reduction to help stimulate industry. It is our desire to review continually the energy mix and cost of power generation for competitive, cost-effective power tariffs. A concentration on cost-competitive generation and transmission of power should allow us to trade excess power under the West African power pool within the ECOWAS region.
The president assured those affected by the ban on small-scale mining that government is exploring alternative livelihoods for them, but also accused large-scale mining companies of being complicit in the pollution and degrading of the environment.
Our nation faces a great difficulty with the activities of illegal miners, or galamseyers as we call them. This is a problem that should be of great concern to the large-scale mining sector and the Chamber of Mines as well. The rise in illegal mining has no doubt been fueled not only by the unemployment problem that has blighted our nation for so long, but also by the unhealthy desire for quick riches. There must be a lot of opportunities in the mining sector to help with the unemployment of our youth. I refer in particular to our One District, One Factory program as an avenue through which we can enter the value chain addition of the mining industry. A large amount of spending by mining companies leaks from the domestic economy through the importation of several tools and equipment which Ghana has the capacity to produce. It is time to reverse this trend. Ghanaian entrepreneurs must be encouraged to work with the Ministry of Trade and Industry and the Chamber to identify opportunities in the value chain where indigenous companies can manufacture these products locally. We are determined to establish a new paradigm of an integrated mining industry to propel local manufacturing. The value chain of mining has huge potential for job creation, and we intend to tap into it to develop our economy. We cannot and should not continue to be merely exporters of raw materials to other countries. And I'm calling on all players in the sector to work with us to deepen the integration of the mining sector with the non-mineral sectors of the economy.
First Lady Rebecca Akufo-Addo is promising to do all she can to improve maternal and child health care in the country. She says it is the reason her Rebecca Foundation is investing in projects that would see a realization of that objective. The latest of those projects is a state-of-the-art pediatric intensive care unit at the Korle Bu Teaching Hospital, equipped with the same facilities and equipment as the maternity and mother and baby unit at the Komfo-Anokye Teaching Hospital. Mrs. Akufo-Addo spearheaded. Mr. Kwame Boateng was at the groundbreaking ceremony, and here is his report.
The Korle Bu Teaching Hospital Child Health Unit had little or no challenge before the 2012 election. This structure, which they occupy, was then comfortable for them, though it is now dilapidated and poses a danger. They were, however, instructed to move to this one big room to allow for demolition of the old structure to make way for the construction of an ultra-modern pediatric intensive care unit. That never materialized, and they were also not allowed to return to their old spacious block. The limited space in their new unit, together with lack of essential life-saving equipment, has created serious congestion here. That's according to Professor Ebenezer Bedu, Head of Department for Child Health.
This is our premier hospital. It's interesting how others refer to our premier hospital. And we are not that equipped really to take on that advanced care, and that is something now we look forward to because we need it here.
Scores of children have died here as a result, and that has not stopped. About 3 deaths are recorded here daily, according to Dr. Frank Owusu-Setre, one of the consultants in charge of this unit.
A lot of people tend to think that as doctors, we are so used to people dying, so we are kind of immune. No doctor will ever get immune to a child dying, particularly for those that we know we can do something for, that we lose. If the intensive care unit is full, it's full. And that is it. So you do what you can. Sometimes we do what we call manual ventilation with a bag and mask. And when we are not able to, then we leave them and then they die as it were.
This is heartbreaking for mothers who witness these deaths.
Dancing the small baby, fresh baby pan, and I think so we did 3 days.
But this narrative is about to change with the intervention of the First Lady Rebecca Akufo-Addo. Today, she broke ground for the construction of an ultra-modern pediatric intensive care unit in accordance with her vision to fight maternal and infant mortality. This unit will take care of pediatric and neonates admitted to the emergency room and are either intensive care or high dependency patients.
The pediatric services in Korle Bu suffer from lack of space and resources to welcome and host emergency pediatric patients and neonates born outside the hospital. This is a facility that is urgently needed to save the lives of our precious children and arrest the needless infant mortality.
She announced it will have the same features as the one built at the Komfo-Anokye Teaching Hospital.
The new facility will apply the same green technology used in the Komfo-Anokye mother and baby and pediatric intensive care units. It will therefore be a highly energy efficient building with reduced operating costs and facilitate better use of the hospital's limited resources.
Chief Executive of the Korle Bu Teaching Hospital, Dr. Felix Anya, says this intervention is timely.
We shall be able to have a first-class children's emergency, which, with all the equipment that is needed to make right diagnosis and right monitoring of children, reduce mortality, reduce cross-infection, reduce inability to refer patients, and so make Korle Bu what we plan of targeted it to be.
Africa Building Partners, the construction firm which built the Kumasi facility, will be putting up the Korle Bu unit. Its chief executive, Eric Ginny, and lead engineer, Stefan Koret, speak about the project.
So what we've been asked to do is to build a ground story unit, but with capacity to extend in the future, so to allow for multi-story construction in the future. Currently, the way that it's been set up, it's partly a PICU, a pediatric intensive care unit, and also a NICU, a neonatal intensive care unit, a much smaller one, but alongside the PICU.
We're going to look for the best brands to equip the building, the ones that provide the right technology, as well the proven technology that has worked in Ghana before, and with the right support teams to give support to the doctors and nurses.
Hopefully, the future presidents, first ladies, and other influential people who are birthed in this unit can expect a safe delivery. Seth Kwame Boateng's report for Joy News.
In a related development, a graduate of the University of Ghana who's been campaigning on social media for the operationalization of the University of Ghana Medical Center was on Wednesday arrested after he held up a placard at the First Lady Rebecca Akufo-Addo. Reginald Sechi Brown was approaching the First Lady, who was delivering a speech at the groundbreaking ceremony for the construction of the pediatric intensive care unit at the Korle Bu Teaching Hospital, when he was accosted. On the placard he held up was the inscription "Open UGMC," a campaign he started on social media to push government to operationalize the 597-bed hospital. Reginald Sechi Brown has since been granted bail. He told Joy News ahead of his release he was first taken away from the program by police officers who handed him over to security officers at the Korle Bu Teaching Hospital.
When I was brought here, I was told to write a statement, and what they intimated when I was being brought here was that I had disrupted the program, and there was a tall, lanky woman in African print. I didn't get to register her name. She said that the bag I was holding might contain certain dangerous accoutrements, and that they should bring me to the police station to verify truly whether what I have in the bag is nothing harmful. If when she made that statement, thereon I stated that if she is accusing me of carrying such dangerous materials, the burden of proof lies on her, and my bag is right before them. They can search it. I could even put on my laptop. I had my laptop, I had my iPad, and I had my iPhone in my bag, and my charger, and my notepad. Those were the things that were in the bag. If that is what we call harmful in Ghana, that I think it's rather unfortunate. I came around 10:47 thereabout. That was just when the CEO had delivered his speech. Then I looked for a very good spot. The main reason why I actually came here was as a result of the fact that I had started a campaign that's the University of Ghana Medical Center on Legon campus. Now the issue on the ground has to do with the fact that we have preterm babies and neonatal deaths consistently increasing, and the First Lady in her speech also emphasized on that very statistics and other things that had been happening and how she had intervened in the Okonfanochi situation. Now, if we have such a bad healthcare system, now the only way to effect a change in the system is to call on the government to be able to make the various healthcare facilities operational. So that's the main reason why I came here with a placard with the inscription hashtag Open University of Ghana Medical Center now.
Now, the arrest of Reginald has been trending on social media with a hashtag developing the last few hours demanding his release. Reginald has indeed been released since, but there are questions being asked of the security detail around the First Lady, whilst others also feel the arrest was out of place. Security analyst Buna has been following developments and joins us via Skype. Thank you for making time. Now, there are those who feel this was a failing on the part of the security detail. Do you agree?
Thank you very much, Israel. Yes, good evening to your cherished viewers. Yes, I think it's a very big failure on the part of the security intelligence setup we have. It's not just those who follow the first gentleman, the second gentleman, and the first lady and the second lady, and those are the important people in the country. This gentleman, someone should have flagged him. Someone, the intelligence setup should have flagged him and should have known that for the first lady to go, cut, the ground or search an edifice to be built, likely to have him come. So it's surprising that he came, just yards away from the first lady. From his own narrative, he did mention that when he was accosted and they asked him they were going to set his back. That is itself a very bad, in terms of being able to, why do you have to do that? Someone should have scanned everybody who is coming there. Anyone who is coming there should have been scanned, but that wasn't done. And so, I would say this is a harmless person, but any bad person who wanted to do anything would have done it before the nation gets to know what the person has done. And so, if you realize, recently, the president's convoy was involved in an accident, and I'm hoping to read a report about it. But I do think that some of these things shouldn't happen in the 21st century. Why are using the decoy in close protection, something called decoy? Why are they not using that? Because then this guy would have taken down the moment he changed, or someone following him can realize this guy would mark the beauty of the whole program. Even though he is harmless, would have been a bad person. And so I think we need to check this, or else one day something bad will happen.
Now, from our interactions with the police, it turns out that they themselves are having a challenge trying to actually charge him because they can't actually figure out which charge to slap on him. Do you foresee a situation where if probably he was screened, he could have been allowed, for instance, to hold up his placard at a vantage position?
Yes, that is usually the norm. You would hold your placard, probably you'll be given permission to hold your placard meters away, but you would have been screened. And so I'm not surprised police have not been able to charge him. For me, I think he's harmless person. He was only a protester, but the police or the intelligence setup, which for me I have had challenges over the years, they have done a good job. The president's convoy, for instance, shouldn't have never been involved in an accident. President Kufuor had the same thing. I think Rawlings had the same thing. We have had President Kufuor has had the same thing. And these things, find a way to stop them. I mean, this close protection is something that people around our leaders tend to do.
Now, what should be the protocol for handling a man like Reginald? Because from what we gather, he was arrested, he was accosted by the police officers, they handed him over to Korle Bu security officers, who handed him over to just health workers at the hospital, who then sent him to the police station. If he could have been a potentially dangerous person, would this have been the way to handle him?
Well, like I'm saying, there is no proper layout procedure. You have arrested a protester. It doesn't matter how harmless the person is. You still want to debrief the person. You want to make sure you understand the person's motive. You take him whoever plain clothes police officers understand arrested him. They shouldn't have handed him for labor health workers. You take him to the nearest police station, and whoever is delivering him to the police, you have to give a short statement, what you have done, why you think you have brought him there. But to leave him, the health workers are not security officers. They are not in charge of the First Lady's securities. For me, I just think it's a bad, in terms of this shouldn't happen. It's a failure on the part of the agencies, those who are in charge of the First Ladies, and probably in charge of some of these things. It shouldn't be happening. The procedure should have been to arrest him, you take him in one piece, two, what do you call it, the police, give a statement why you have brought him there. Then if they have to do an investigation and release him on, they do that. But to, means that you don't have a structured way of doing these things. But there are structures that followed in terms of even the police, their own service procedures. When you arrest someone, whether it's a police officer, it's a civilian, there are processes they have to follow. And so I just think that from beginning to the end, a lot of these things were not right.
All right, thank you very much, Adam Buna. Adam Buna is a security analyst, and he was analyzing this incident at the Korle Bu Teaching Hospital involving a protester and the First Lady. Now, Star Ghana, a coalition of Ghana's donor partners, is committing 7.6 million cedis to strengthening the country's local governance structures. The 23 organizations which will benefit from the fund were announced at a ceremony in Accra on Wednesday. The initiative is also aimed at enhancing decentralization in Ghana. Mohammed Mahama has more.
Star Ghana is an initiative funded by UK Aid, Danida and the European Union, which aims to strengthen democratic governance in Ghana by improving accountability and responsiveness of government to every citizen. One of the ways it supports civil society is through its grants program, which funds its partners working on anti-corruption, gender equality, and local governance goals.
The idea of the facility is to be able to create an environment where active citizenship can be stimulated. So we're working primarily through grant partners who are largely civil society and non-governmental organizations. We also have a healthy media work stream. We're also working with Parliament as a state actor.
Today's workshop was held for its partners working under Star Ghana's local governance and decentralization call, and is meant to officially usher in the grantees through an official signing ceremony.
We asked for interventions in a number of areas, or we invited our grant partners to look at interventions, relating to issues of resources, resource mobilization, and even issues around social accountability. In the process, we've learned a lot. We've identified issues. In my presentation, I'll share some of the issues that should inform national discussion on where we want decentralization to go.
Star Ghana hopes these grants will bolster efforts to enhance local governance with unique and innovative interventions.
The idea is to be able to create a certain groundswell of awareness, and a certain level of practice, which can be collated, learned from, and upscaled. So there'll be a community of learning event where we'll bring all these grant partners to come and share their learning with supply side actors and with the nation at large, so to inform practice and enhance citizenship.
For Joy News, Mohammed Mahama.
We're taking a break here on Joy News Prime to bring you business news. Stay tuned.
Hello again, good evening to you. Time now for business. The Ghana and Mexico have started bilateral discussions that could see international airlines flying direct services between the two countries in the near future. Engaging the media after a courtesy call on the Minister for Aviation, the Mexican High Commissioner to Ghana, Maria de los Angeles Arreola Aguirre, said the move ties in well with both countries' vision of becoming aviation hubs.
Aviation Ministry continues to engage investors in its quest to make Ghana a hub in aviation. Direct flights between the two countries will cover relatively shorter distance as compared to the current situation, which requires transiting through South Africa, Europe or the USA before arriving in Mexico. Speaking with the media after a courtesy call on the Minister for Aviation in Accra, the Mexican High Commissioner to Ghana said creating a direct flight will open Africa to Latin America.
We are today constructing a new airport. So this new airport will allow, when it is finishing its first stage for 2022 more or less, to get the capacity of receiving 95 million visitors per year. But the issue for me is that if we're going to have this airport, that means that in the middle term, Mexico and Ghana can turn also very strategic countries to receive direct flights in this same road from Mexico City to Accra and Accra, Mexico, considering that Accra is also a hub and is working also to be a bigger hub for flights from Africa to other parts of the world. Mexico is doing the same with this big project of airport, and what we want to do is to start today, while the airports are in construction, to start building a bilateral agenda.
On her part, the Minister for Aviation, Cecilia Dapa, welcomed the gesture and promised to expedite moves to bring the collaboration to fruition.
We need to make it profitable.
Exactly.
For our business people to help us forge this relationship. The acquisition of these aircrafts is not an easy project, and there must be the passenger throughput to make sure this is reasonable and profitable. You can't just get up one day and say, I'm going to travel by air, bring the airplane and let me sit in and go. It takes processes. Correct. So I believe this bilateral talk is very important. It's the way forward and the way to go. I will bring in my colleague, the tourism minister, and we can combine business with tourism.
Correct.
And that is also one way that we can help both countries to achieve something out of the relationship in the aviation sector.
Sheila Tamaklo for Joy Business.
Now, CEO of the Ghana Investment Promotion Center, UV Grant, says he's against instituting laws that would compel multinationals to list on the stock market. He was responding to calls that government should look at compelling foreign firms in the country to list on the Ghana Stock Exchange following MTN's decision to go public. But Mr. Grant tells Joy Business the country should be careful how it implements such proposals.
So we first have to find the mechanics in which we make that work. So for example, even if we insist that certain companies should be owned 100% or majority Ghanaian, knowing that we lack the capital depth to make that happen, what kind of structures will we recommend? That even if we want Ghanaians to own majority of companies, we have to find a way to separate that from the financing of the companies, such that those who finance the companies are able to claw back the investment and then share. You know, but that's the issue that you need to contend with. The fact that there's lack of capital here, and we do need the investment here. So we strike a balance.
Do you see that as a problem?
Oh, of course it is. You want to develop your country, you don't have money.
You're raising about almost a little over 3 billion Ghana cedis within a month.
Well,
over a month.
I need to be raising 10 in a month. That's the challenge.
And restricting it to Ghanaians.
Well, restricting it to Ghanaians, that would be the challenge.
Yeah.
But raising it to come into the country to work, such that Ghanaians can benefit, I think that's a value proposition that we will encourage.
Meanwhile, the stock market has made gains of about 35% already this year as investors shift from the money market to other profitable investments. This follows a further drop in the monetary policy rate by the Bank of Ghana, leading to a decline in returns on monetary market instruments such as treasury bills and interest on deposits. Economist with Data Bank Courage Mate explains how the shift has contributed to a strong recovery of the stock market.
Our experience over the last couple of months has shown that with the declining interest rates, a lot of investors who want to take a lot more risk have moved significantly into the stock market. And what that has done is that even without the publication of listed companies' financials, we have seen a strong recovery in the prices of listed companies, most of them, and that has resulted in 52% return averagely for last year, 2017. And even this year, we've seen the stock market doing quite well, getting to about 35% average returns before retreating to some 27% as we speak. And so you see that there's a lot of traffic that has flowed out of the treasury bills market because of the declining interest rate towards the capital market, both for bonds and the stock market. And that is making it quite attractive for investors on the longer side as against the shorter side of things.
Okay. So would you say this is a positive trend, and how can we sustain it?
Well, I'd say generally it is positive, because in the past when treasury bills had high rates, it gave us an inverted yield curve, meaning that short-term yields are higher than long-term yields, and a lot of investors would not be prepared to give money out for long. And that also went into the thinking of banks, so that banks will not grant credit to businesses for so long when they can turn it around quickly in a short-term instrument. Now that it's declined and we have a normal yield curve, banks should be looking at giving money for long because the catch is on the longer end of the market. The advantage is that businesses can then access long-term funding to improve on their investment, expand their business operations, expand productivity and profitability, and hire more hands and reduce unemployment and improve livelihood of people. So this is the benefit.
Now, auditing firm KPMG says it will be ready to release the financial results of Unibank Ghana after its validation process in September this year. The bank was placed under official administration by the Bank of Ghana 2 months ago after it realized some difficulties with liquidity and management. In an exclusive interview with Joy Business, senior partner at KPMG, Anthony Sapong, disclosed that the true state of the bank will be revealed after the evaluation process. There's more in this report.
According to the Bank of Ghana, the appointment of KPMG as the official administrator was aimed at saving Unibank from imminent collapse. It was also to prevent potential losses to depositors and other creditors and ensure the financial condition of the bank does not create further risk for the entire financial system. The audit firm has assured that it is on course with its mandate, and in an interview with Joy Business, senior partner at KPMG, Anthony Sapong, says they will meet the deadline.
20 days is just a point in time to be able to give a situation analysis to Bank of Ghana and say that, okay, prior to the appointment, this is the situation you had as Bank of Ghana. But having been in it for 90 days, this is what we have seen. And then that same report will contain what needs to be done, for example, in the next 6 months or 1 year. Because as I said, so far I've talked mostly dealing with the liquidity. But after 90 days, you then need to look at what capital does the bank require. In technical terms, they may call it solvency. In other words, in the long term, how much funding does the bank require? The implementation of that itself can take longer than just the 90 days. But I think the determination of what you need to do, we expect to come to that position by inside our 90-day report for consideration of Bank of Ghana.
He also disclosed that no employee of the bank has been negatively affected as a result of the takeover.
Not just looking at the resolution, but also looking at the interest of all stakeholders. If I were a manager, yes, of the bank, my employees are essential assets of the bank, and therefore I will not jump about just say because I want to cut costs, I'll sack the employees. I'll do it in a manner that also protects their interests. And within a bigger context of public good, then you are saying that if you want to disengage employees, then you are going to create unemployment. What are the consequences of unemployment on the general society as a whole, particularly also given the general unemployment situation that we have in Ghana? So as an OA, our primary concern has not been to disengage employees because, one, our period itself is short-term basis. If the 6 months elapse and we have to go, we ought to be able to exit smoothly.
In line with its powers under Act 930, KPMG will ascertain the state of the bank's assets and liabilities and exercise a variety of powers under Act 930 to rehabilitate and return the bank to regulatory compliance.
And that's business on Joy News Prime tonight. Thank you very much for your company. My name is Emmanuel Abuachi Riafi. There's more news ahead. Don't go away.
The local government and rural development minister Haji Halima Mahama has appealed to traditional leaders to play key roles in government's attempt to deepen local governance with the election of metropolitan, municipal and district chief executives. According to her, the mode of appointing MMDCs has been identified as a governance gap and hence the need to involve traditional leaders. Haji Halima Mahama, who made the call in Sunyani at a day sensitization workshop on the election of MMDCs in Ghana, noted that there is a constitutional impediment which requires a referendum for amendment.
So as we go to the regions and the communities, we invite chiefs, we invite traditional rulers, and I think they are very key stakeholders in this regard. They are very important. We all know that they have their cause, they have their communities, their palace. People in a community, people can enter the palace anytime and all the time. They have discussions in the palaces with the members of the community and even people from adjoining villages. So it was expectation that they will spread the word, provide this information. Government has said that now the president will not be appointing DCs. We should elect our DCs, and we think it's a good idea. And give them some of the reasons that we are discussing now at this conference. And spread the word, and especially when it comes to the referendum, try to convince people why they think they should vote yes for the referendum for the election of MMDCs on a partisan basis. So this consultation is to give them information, and they will also reach out. And they can help us now by spreading the information, and at the referendum level too, they can influence people, talk to people, convince people to get their buy-in and to give a yes vote to the referendum.
She also said the local government and rural development ministry and the government are taking steps to deal with challenges that may confront them along the way.
Whether we appoint our DCs or elect our DCs, there are challenges. We just have to understand the challenges and then program to work towards solutions, getting solutions for them. I believe definitely there will be some challenges along the line. Even going through the process, we would have to mobilize, convince people. That's why we saw how we are talking with the stretching and talking to everybody to at least confuse them, ensure that there is clarity, people understand what you are saying. That's the first challenge that we are going through. But luckily it looks like in almost all the communities that we go to, the principle is acceptable to them.
Participants, including municipal and district chief executives in the Buna region, also expressed the desire to support the government achieve its quest to elect MMDCs. As part of government's agenda for rapid industrialization, Ghana's ability to measure what is produced becomes critical if it is to compete on the international market. Speaking at a ceremony in Accra Wednesday, the Director General of the Ghana Standards Authority, Professor Alex Dodu, indicated that Ghana's measuring standards from next year would change to enable it conform to international standards.
I'm happy to say that Ghana is part of World Metrology. And indeed, on World Metrology Day on the 20th of May, we noticed, and I'm sure the country will be surprised, but Even the kilogram as we know it is no longer going to be the same kilogram from next year. The attributes of measurements are changing. And, Honorable Minister, we are pleased to say that Ghana is firmly in touch, keeping ahead so that come 2019, when the key attributes are changed, our kilogram doesn't be shorter or longer or heavier or lighter than somebody else's meter or kilogram. Today's function is special to us because we have a mass laboratory, a temperature lab, a humidity lab, a pressure lab, and a volume lab, all of which have been accredited by DAX, the German accreditation service, which means that it's at the highest standard attainable, meets both European Union and US standards. That means that GSA is talking business.
At a handing over ceremony of DAX accreditation certificates to Ghana Standards Authority, the Minister for Trade and Industry, Alan Chiramanting, stressed the need to critically pay attention to quality infrastructure to enable Ghana trade efficiently with international standards.
If we want to industrialize, if we want to develop an export-led economy, if we want to be able to compete in global markets, that we are able to certify the quality of goods that we produce in Ghana from our factories. And so when we talk about the value of the certificate of accreditation that the Standards Authority has received today, it goes to the root of what we are trying to do as a country, because it's going to enable Ghana Standards Authority to certify appropriately the quality and standards of goods that are produced, whether it's through the One District, One Factory initiative or through other interventions that government is promoting. But that's on the production side. Now, on the import side, if we are importing goods into this country and want to ensure the safety of the health and the safety and the health of our population, of our consumers, we need to have the capacity to be able to test the quality of goods that come into our country. For an organization like Ghana Standards Authority to be able to do that exercise and to undertake that responsibility, they need to have international certification that allows them to deploy the right kind of measurements to test the goods that are imported into this country.
One pupil was killed when a truck lost control on the Oblogo-Weja Road and ran into the compound of the Oblogo Basic School. Another pupil is in critical condition with 6 others sustaining injuries. Eyewitness accounts say the victims alighted from a vehicle walking home when the unfortunate incident happened. Residents are threatening to embark on a demonstration Thursday since their calls for barricades to be provided in the area have fallen on deaf ears. In October last year, Joy News reported a similar incident on the school compound, though no casualty was recorded then. Our reporter Jacqueline Johnson-Quay was at the scene and has more.
Behind me is the road that leads from Bawe to the Weja Waterways. This road, residents complain, have no ramp to slow down trucks that ply the road. Sometimes kids are fortunate enough to survive, but today happened to be an unfortunate incident for 2 pupils from a nearby school. The kids were seen alighting from a bus walking home when the unfortunate incident happened. A bus that was parked here earlier veered off the road, hitting 4 cars in its way, leading to the accident and injury of 6 other persons who have been rushed to the hospital. Parents of these people are yet to be identified. The driver is in police custody and headmistress of the other school is helping with investigation to identify the children.
Just this afternoon, we were informed that there has been an accident around Oblogo cluster schools. In fact, we arrived to the scene and we saw that 1 people died out of the accident. Unfortunately, a car veered from the hill, and then destroyed. So far, 4 cars have been identified, completely destroyed, and the body has just been taken to.
The Kumasi Circuit Court on Wednesday sentenced one of 5 young men seen in a video performing sexual acts on a lady at Bantama to 7 years in prison with hard labor. The remaining 4, who are minors, were referred to a juvenile court to determine their sentencing. The video, which went viral last year, was said to have been filmed by one of the young men. The incident drew a public backlash, with many calling for harsh sentences for the perpetrators. Live News' Erastus Asarodonko, who was in court, reports the atmosphere was charged when the court gave its ruling. Erastus joins us via Skype with details. Erastus, first of all, describe the mood in the courtroom when the sentence was handed down.
It was an emotionally charged moment over there. When the ruling or the judgment was handed down, then we had wailing by some of the parents and some of the convicts. In fact, they started crying out loudly. One of them was saying that he has some medical issues. He thinks he's going to faint. He wants some medical attention and all that. And this was when the judge spelled out that one Ernest Asari, who is 20 years, is to serve a 7-year prison sentence with hard labor. The other 4 who are deemed juveniles are supposed to go for sentencing with a juvenile court yet to be determined. And so that was when emotions fled in that particular courtroom. But we must also note that the date and time of this particular sitting where the sentencing will be done is yet to be communicated by the judicial service.
Now, Erastus, those who were sentenced, the 5 of them, did they show any remorse at all?
In fact, they were sad, and I think that is when the reality dawned on them that this is the situation, because all along the trial, in fact, their first time they appeared before court, they were not remorseful at all. And even when we came out, some of them were complaining that this is nothing. Why are you, taking pictures of us? This is nothing. But I think during the court and when the ruling was handed down, then it dawned on them that this is really serious, and that is where they broke down in tears. And I must say that at that particular moment, yes, they were very remorseful. They regretted their actions, I must say.
Have we had any reaction from the victim or the victim's family at all?
In fact, the victim was not in court today, neither was the family, because we learned during the course of the trial that the family itself, she was not having anybody to fend for her. So back in Kumasi, she comes from a village, comes to Kumasi to do menial jobs for money, and so there were no family members in there. She herself was not present, but I'm learning that yes, this is something that she hoped for, but she thought it wasn't possible. And so now that it has been done, she feels equally gratified.
All right, thank you very much, Erastus Asarodonko, bringing us that update from the Kumasi court. Moving on, how do you handle 11 classes in 4 classrooms? Here's how. With 254 pupils, the Yeleyire Primary and JHS in the Wild West District holds classes partly under trees, while others are merged due to lack of facilities. Upper West Regional Correspondent Rafiq Salam visited the area and reports instructional hours spent at the school depends on the movement of the sun.
The Yeleyire Primary School was established some 13 years ago to address the challenges of pupils working long distances to have access to education. The school has a population of 254 pupils. However, they have this 3-unit classroom block for all the 11 stages of education at the basic level. 4 classes are combined here in 2 classrooms. The cruel reality, however, is that there is no partition and the pupils are mixed together. I met teacher Mohammed Aziz Kantonsong in this class, busily teaching basic design and technology, BDT. Though the topic is meant for 6 students, who will be writing the Basic Education Certificate Examination BEC next week. The other 13 students who are in JHS 2 are also sitting in the class but are not supposed to be active participants. Classes here are differentiated by the topics treated by the teacher.
First of all, you write a topic you have to treat and tell them this is for fund trace. They all know their topics. Fund trace. So you tell them this, we are teaching fund trace right now. After 35 minutes, I'm going back to fund 2. So that when you teach this one, you go back to the fund 2 again and teach them. That is how we teach them.
Finally, a student, Kungara Desmond, is not happy with the situation.
They are teaching year 3. If year 2 are also here, they can make noise. So if they are making noise, we can't hear anything about their teaching. Headmaster of Yelayiri DA Primary and JHS, Mensa Tadios, speaks of the challenges involved in lumping the classes together.
Teaching and learning is not effective because we waste a lot of time. Because one teacher will engage 2 classes at the same time, who's supposed to be separate. So one teacher will be here, another will be here. Because of that, some teacher will even travel all the way from Y and come and sit. One person will occupy the class. Before we realize time is up and the person will go back without teaching. It is affecting the academic performance of the students in the school.
The case of pupils in the lower primary is different from that of their senior colleagues at the school. They rely on the shades of trees here for their studies. The number of instructional hours at the school depend on the movement of the sun. Yakubu Mariam teaches class 1.
Sometimes we will be teaching while some of them are praying. Because we are not in the classroom, they will go out, but you can't see them. And meanwhile, the tree, there you can see the tree. It's not a neem tree. When it's 11 o'clock, we have to close because we don't have any place to sit again. And normally we're supposed to close at 1 or 1:30, but because of the tree, we close at 11.
At the kindergarten, there's no furniture. The pupils use stones, use wire boards, and logs as their furniture. Assemblyman of Very electoral area, Dara Joseph, is deeply concerned about the situation.
We have been struggling with authority to come to our aid, but we are not getting any results. We are grateful for you today, and it is our hope that looking at the situation, if authority, the Honorable DCE, the Member of Parliament, the Regional Minister, the President, and all authority, seeing this situation, if they should come to our aid as a matter of agency, we'll be very grateful.
The government of Ghana, through the Ghana Education Trust Fund in 2015, awarded a contract for the construction of a 6-unit classroom block with ancillary facilities for the school. As I speak to you now, it's now been left abandoned and overtaken by grass. Hussein Ismail Enterprise Limited was awarded a project which he executed up to the lintel level. He told me off camera that he left the project due to delay by the GET Fund to pay him for work done. District Chief Executive for Wa West, Edo Labiru Sobo, expressed worry over the situation.
Last week, summoned a meeting to all the contractors. We had a very beautiful deliberation with them to let everybody to be aware that if you have a challenge, let us know. So as at now, we are also working hard to see to it that all the GET Fund projects are completed.
Pupils in these schools need urgent help. Reporting for Joy News, Rafik Salam, Yelayiri.
Staff of the Commander College of Education are raising red flags over the allocation of programs to the college by the Ministry of Education. According to the staff, most of the colleges would be without students should the ministry go ahead with the present allocation. At a news conference this morning, the college called on the Ministry of Education and the National Council for Tertiary Education to intervene to avert the collapse of some of the colleges of education. Chairman of the College of Education Teachers Association, Eric Sechi, addressed the news conference.
We want to put on record that as a college, we have written to institutions that matter in this program allocation discourse, but our plea has not been given any attention. we hereby state the following: our problems with respect to the allocation of programs and the need to consider our plea for the addition of general programs. 1. The programs allocated to the college in the present arrangement forms only 31% of the student intake in terms of admission of Commander College. The remaining 69% constitute student offering general program, which the college will be denied of in 2018-2019 academic year if the present arrangement is maintained. Our recommendation is that all colleges of education, and for that matter, Commander College of Education, be allowed to offer other general programs of their choice, as well as their course bias, to boost student intake as pertained in all public universities. The college will be in the position to serve the nation better and its catchment area more effectively, and also ensure gender equity if its admission, gender equity in its admission if it is allowed to mount general program in addition to the already allocated program.
Former National Identification Authority boss Dr. William Mahaji says the NIA will have serious challenges raising the initial funding for the exercise, estimated to cost $1.2 billion. Dr. Haji told Raymond Aqua on Our Front on Joy News the authority will face operational challenges if it goes ahead with the exercise in its current state.
The commitments are huge. I mean, when we met the Ghana team, the Ghana card team yesterday, we were told that Ghana was going to raise $124 million.
Yes, immediately. That's the initial cost.
Yeah, and so I just said I'd like to interrogate what will go into that. You see, because of the new law that was introduced, they've reduced the number of the base document, or if you like, the breeder document, the passport, and the law says, the previous law says you could use your the voter's ID card, the driver's license, baptismal certificate, and all of that. It's been reduced to 2. Now, but there's another dimension of it where in the event where someone doesn't have any of the 2, someone will have to attest that you are the one.
Bring somebody who filled the oath form.
Yes. Then, or that the commissioner of oath you will have to swear an oath. We were told yesterday that there will be 2,700 commissioners of oath that will be carried along with the 3,000 workstation operators. That's a very huge operational cost. So you're going to, the easiest thing you could.
The minority in Parliament is kicking against the establishment of a witness protection agency which seeks to safeguard the lives of potential witnesses in any criminal proceeding. MP for Waku Central Mama Yarga argues that the establishment of the agency will be a burden on the public purse. The agency, according to government, would protect relatives, experts and witnesses against potential retaliation or intimidation as a result of their cooperation with law enforcement agencies. But Mama Yarga says the agency will fail to meet its mandate due to lack of resources.
In as much as the systems need to be in place, there are innovative ways of doing the same thing without having to replicate a whole institutional setup.
Right. So we need not to set up an institution, but rather find different mechanisms and ways to protect citizens.
We will have a legislation that makes provision for a program for protecting witnesses when the need arises, without necessarily having a whole agency with a board and chief executive and deputies and staff and etc. You can just have the Attorney General, because the witness is the witness of the Attorney General. So you can have the Attorney General having that capacity on a case-by-case basis, decide that he or she wants a particular witness protected, and you can assign that job to national security. So when the Attorney General determines that this witness needs to be protected, then the national security then takes it up, and then they find a way of making sure that the person or the persons are protected. Because the experience I have had in this country is that we create institutions when we have a problem and we don't resource the institutions don't function, then we see that the system is not working well. They will create another institution in addition to the one that is already in existence, and we haven't expanded the basket of resources to deal with that problem. So for me, I am in support of a witness protection program, but I'm saying that generally this country is fond of just establishing institutions as a response to a problem, without backing that response with resources.
But Chair of the Legal and Constitutional Affairs Committee and MP for Finso, Ben Abdelabanda, disagrees. He believes the establishment of the agency will help in the fight against corruption.
As for resources, there is no country anywhere that is fully satisfied as far as resources are concerned. But as a country, if we see it as a necessity to ensure that witnesses are protected, then we must as well ensure that the resources of this country are well prioritized and channeled to certain areas as a country we deem important. On an annual basis, the Attorney General sends, let's say, 100 cases to court, and the Attorney General loses about 70% because of lack of information, because witnesses are afraid to come forward to testify. The net effect of it is that the country stands the risk of losing more than if an agency of this nature were in place. When people have the understanding that at the end of the day, if I fish out information on the corruption in this particular institution to any of the law enforcement agencies, I will be protected. Then of course that person will be forthright with the information. You realize that within a year or two, the rate of corruption, which has become problematic in Africa and in this country, will be reduced.
And in the headlines, First Lady Rebecca Akufo-Addo has broken ground for the construction of a pediatric intensive care unit at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital to have the same features as the state-of-the-art mother and baby unit at the Konfanochi Teaching Hospital, also spearheaded by her. The arrest of a lone campaigner for the opening of the University of Ghana Medical Center, however, got social media talking. The gentleman has since been granted bail. President Akufo-Addo is unhappy about the state of the country's mining communities, where billions of dollars worth of mineral resources have been extracted over decades. In business, Ghana and Mexico commenced bilateral talks on establishing direct flights between Ghana and Mexico as both countries aspire to establish aviation hubs in Africa and Latin America.